Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Conscious Marketer podcast. Hi, Kylie. How you doing?
Hi there.
And today we have our guest today, who is Lia Dunlap, and she is officially called the Oracle on Purpose. And so we were chatting right before this, and I was saying we all need our own Oracle to turn to have advice and downloads to confirm things. So I'm super excited to be talking to you. Hi there.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here with you and Kylie.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And let me just give you a quick introduction to her so you know a little bit about Lia. She has over 25 years experience as an intuitive business architect and coach. She's helped thousands of clients in 76 countries. She's also a best-selling author, speaker, and founder of the Masters Creator Academy, and also the creator of the Power Plan Life, which helps you to find your purpose and live it. And today we're going to talk a little bit about why purpose is the key, and also talk about how to link that with money, or the divine path to millions, which is really interesting. So, Lia, do you want to maybe share a little bit about your background and how you came to do the work that you're doing now? I think it's always interesting to find out the backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I've always known that I was an oracle. I just didn't know what the term was for it. But I have been doing this work since 1994, way before Kylie was born. We all know. I actually started, like many people, on a split path, which was I worked in the corporate world to please all my parents and family, to tell them I was normal. And on the side, I ran off on the weekends and started doing these retreats and activities to help people, because all the while I knew that we were meant to do bigger things and be here on purpose. That was my message that was received from the Oracle. So I did that for a long time. And then finally, I had an episode where I thought I was having a heart attack as I was driving back to my corporate job one day in sales. And I realized that the call was for me to stop and do what I was meant to do myself, because I had helped all these other people do exactly that. And it was my turn. So I have been working as an oracle and as an intuitive guide for business owners full time, as you will, since 2009. So the beauty of that is it's brought me the gift of being able to see both the business side of business, the practical side, if you will, and to help people understand that their intuitive guides themselves are helping them to understand that they're here to do something purposeful with their lives beyond just making money, and also to make money, which is what I love most, is to share with people that you don't have to choose, that you can actually have both, and you can do it in a way that's really exciting and plentiful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's these pivot points are like so important. We often hear like, follow your purpose, follow your passion, like Joseph Campbell. Can you maybe share a little bit about what the difference between, or if there is a difference between purpose and passion? Can you maybe kind of clarify that for all of us so that we can kind of go on the right path instead of the dark alley?
The byways, yes. I love this question, and I love talking about this topic. It's one of my favorite things. I could talk forever, but I won't. But the biggest thing about it that I think that most people get confused with is, if you think about your passion, it's like a firework. It's something that excites you, lights you up, but it blows out, right? And then we're stuck kind of feeling that gap where we're wanting more and needing more. That's the passion. But underneath the passion is your purpose. And your purpose is like an internally burned fire. It is your generator. It is the thing that helps you to actually find and follow the paths that are lit up by that passion. So to me, there are not necessarily against each other, right? One leads to the other, but the beauty of having an understanding of what your actual purpose is, what I like to call your unique life purpose, is that it is the fuel for every passion you find. And that way, what I see that it helps people do is to understand that when you have a passion and you go chasing after it, and you have that letdown of like, oh, I thought this was the way, this was my thing, and then it doesn't work out. And maybe a lot of people have found that recently, that things didn't work out the way they thought it was going to happen. It's because they were chasing the passion without being really connected to the purpose. And the purpose will always lead you back to what's next. That's the beautiful thing. You can have lots of passions in your life. I myself have, and I've helped with a lot of clients that have. And when you are anchored in your purpose, then you find the way to express that through your passions. And that to me is the biggest difference, that the passions are part of an expression of who you are meant to be here on this planet.
I love that. And I just want to take a moment to brag about you for a moment, because these are the two reasons that I was really excited to share you with our audience. The first one is I obviously am connected to you on Facebook, and I just see story after story after story of your clients like crushing it. And there's a lot to be said for that, because we're in an industry where a 3% success rate is acceptable. And I'm not seeing that unless you have 10,000 clients. Like, I'm not seeing that in your camp. And the other thing that I just will never forget probably is our friend AG, who we interviewed, one of our first interviews, had an event, and he asked me to be one of the storytelling judges at the event. And I don't know, was there like 12 people or something like that telling stories? The minute you stepped on stage, I was like, I'm voting for her. And then you just shared. I didn't even hear your whole story before I had made up my mind about that, because you were so able to express complex ideas in such a simple way, but also it was so integrated. It was like, I'm telling the story from my spirit, from my soul, from my body, from my purpose. And I was like, that is masterful. Like, this woman is a masterful storyteller. I'm just curious, because you were able to express your purpose through a story. I think you started the story when you were 4, just like you were just talking about. And I just am curious, based on what I heard, what do you see as the connection between sharing your story and living your purpose?
Oh, I think the biggest connection to me is that your story is the soundtrack to your purpose, right? It becomes the thing, that expression of who you are meant to be. And there are repeated themes, right? There's your catch of the talking through the middle piece, what we call the chorus. Those repeated themes, I think they're always anchored in our purpose, but the reality of it is we have to express and know what our purpose is through the experience of our humanity. And that becomes the story. The story is, I think, all stories, even the tragedies and the comedies, there's always a thread back to a development of something that the universe is trying to express through us. And so to me, our stories, the more authentic and real we are about our real stories, the more that I like to say, like universe, right? One song, the more that our voice is attuned to that one song. And the people that need to hear it can really observe it and respond to it as they're intended.
That's amazing. Like, I kind of feel like one of the things that we do is we help a lot of teachers that help people go inward, and kind of filtering out a few things here. But basically, my belief is that a lot of people are disconnected from that inner guidance. They're disconnected from their highest self and disconnected from the soul, which is where we get the vision and where we get the kind of the nudge to go in a direction. And my understanding is it will never tell you what to do, but it'll put some things in your pathway that help you have the realization yourself. Could you maybe share a little bit about your understanding of how to connect in with that inspiration, that guidance, that higher knowledge that comes through us?
Absolutely. The one thing I will say about that right off the bat as you were talking, it's like, oh, Oracle's here. She's like, no, don't edit. Don't edit. Say the thing, right? That's always the thing. Like, honestly, the biggest part of what we do when we are denying ourselves our own intuitive nudges, if you will, and why people seek me out, is it's much easier somehow to look at somebody else nudging you as validation. But the reality is I can't validate anything you don't already know.
Right. Yeah. And well, the filtering too was like a lot of people are asleep, and so I didn't want to offend anybody on the podcast. Of course, nobody listening to this is asleep because they're doing their work. But it's funny because sometimes we get the nudges and we discount them or we shut them off, and we kind of know what we're supposed to do. But that's probably a different topic. But I think this opening to hear and listen and get the message is the
Absolutely. It is the biggest thing I think for people when they're wondering or curious, when they come into my field, my sphere, if you will, is to let them understand that you possess within you everything you need to do whatever's next. Like that's the way we're designed. And because of our communal experience, we've been taught to question that. We've been taught to doubt that and look for proof, right? Proof before faith is one way of looking at it. And the reality of it is if we do it the opposite direction and we have faith in what we are being nudged to, then we can get the proof we're looking for. But for so many people in so many different arenas, on a lot of different, so not, again, there I go nudging, or curbing, for a lot of people who are conditioned to think that until I can see it, I can't believe it, even though something inside of me is telling me it's real. So we have to turn that on its head if we really want to stay connected. Because the universe, you're right, it's not going to necessarily, it'll take a long time before it beats you over the head with a stick, right? It's going to nudge for a long time. And all that you lose out on when you don't pay attention that way is the time that you could have enjoying what you're meant to be doing. And that, to me, is the biggest, or the saddest part.
That's painful. You said that and I was like, ugh, yeah, that's so painful. We definitely don't get any of that back. So I'm just really curious about how does everything that we're talking about so far fit into your process with entrepreneurs, or maybe they're not entrepreneurs, but business. How do you start to weave all of this into business? Why are your clients so successful? Let's go down that rabbit hole for a minute.
Oh, yay. The fundamental thing is we always start with purpose. That's the fundamental thing. So I always uncover for my clients what their unique life purpose is. We do a process to really break that down. And to your point, Richard, we do it backwards on purpose, because our minds are set to kind of push back. So I take them through a process where we kind of go through the back door and suddenly they're like, oh, there it is, right? So we break down some of those barriers. But once we have their unique life purpose, what we do is we create everything, not only just their life. I consider myself a 360-degree coach. When you're working with me, I see your life and your business, not necessarily that that they have to feed each other, but that they do. Like, it's not like you have to make it so. More often than not, you're fighting the fact that it is already so. Like, your life and your business are representative of your wholeness if you're doing it properly. And so with that, we look at like what they're creating with their businesses. Thank you very much, Kylie. I work with entrepreneurs and business leaders. And so it is, how do you bring the whole you to your life and your work? And what processes, what parts of what you do can we delete, delegate, or automate so that the only thing you're doing is what's most aligned to your true purpose in life? And once we've done that, then as you mentioned, my clients will see that what a lot of the limitations that they've put on themselves are comparison based or condition based. And so we say, what if we just take those limiters off? And instead we say, we're going to start from what we know is true about you, and we're going to build your business that way. And if something that comes along that's shiny and amazing fits, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. And then we're going to move forward with our business structure and our business plan from that centered place. And what I've found for my clients, one in particular, for example, that had a real estate business and had kind of hit a plateau and was really struggling. And during the pandemic had her best year yet, into the double millions of dollars from a dry spell. Because we took everything she was and we brought it back to who she wanted to work with. And those people saw her and they only wanted to work with her because she was doing real estate different. And that was what we needed her to come back to. So it gives her the opportunity to really show up in a way that her people really could see her. And to the point of the story, they could see themselves in her story. And by sharing who she was, they knew that she would be taking care of them the way they needed to be taken care of. And to this date, she's over 200 million in the last 2 years and 100 million in the first quarter of this year in business. So yeah, it's working pretty good.
All right, before I pass it off to Richard, I have an extremely important question for you. My mom always wants me to throw away my clothes with holes in them. Now I hear you talking about getting rid of stuff that doesn't need to be there anymore. Are you on my mom's side or are you on my side?
I'm on the side that makes you feel most alive.
Keeping them. Thank you.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. I want you to be you. So if that makes you happy, if that fills you with joy, um, it's the best thing you can do because honestly, nobody should be wearing clothes that don't fit them. And by that I mean their
Perfect.
spirit.
I
Yep.
love that. I wanted to make that distinction, so thank you.
Awesome. I think a lot of really powerful creators when they're maybe first starting out, especially, they feel like they have to make a choice. Like, do I follow my purpose or can I make money? And then I've seen versions where people like give everything up and then they move to like the jungle or something, and then they're like, why aren't I manifesting? Can you kind of maybe shed some light as to, this is a big question. We could talk another couple hours on this one, I'm
Right.
sure.
I think we need 2 episodes to fill this, but I'm gonna jump in and give you the highlights, if you will. Um, the funniest thing about that idea and that concept is like the extremism, right? That it has to be one way or the other. And ultimately, when we are really attuned to what our purpose is, and we build what we're creating from that place, what we aspire to create with abundance and wealth and prosperity in that vein is naturally resourced within us. So to me, the purpose that we have is always connected to source. So like, whether you want to name that, whatever you want to name it, I believe in God, I believe in spirit, I believe in all these things. I also have an oracle, so I can't really judge anyone on anything. And through that essence of whatever that power and source is, you can make decisions that give you the opportunity for greater and greater abundance. So when we talk about the people that are like, I'm going to go off and sit and meditate and pray and manifest, I often remind them, we're humans here with the ability to act and move through the world on purpose because we are co-creative. And if we sit and wait and wait and wait, what we've created and manifested is the ability to wait until our good comes. And we've done a really good job of it. And if we believe that we have to work and work and work and work and fight and struggle and strive, then we create the ability to work and work and work and strive and strive and strive. And somewhere in the middle is where we reach flow. And to me, the flow is to say, I will do my part, I will show up, I will take action from a unique, aligned place, and I will say yes. And the yeses will bring me to more yeses. And those yeses will bring me more opportunity, and those opportunities will bring me more abundance. And that, over the last 10 years, seems to be working.
Yeah, I think that was some amazing wisdom. I think there's this like the great myth that we're supposed to sit in meditation and then get the cosmic download for like the next 10 years of our life. And I think some people actually get that, but like, I think most of us it's more like, not only are we not going to get that, but we're not going to have a lot of motivation, but it's through getting out there. And, when the people we work with have, when they're stuck, I'm like, just get moving, just start to serve. And like the next thing will appear. And even this year has been kind of interesting because it hasn't been like the last couple of years. And so like, I think even for us, it's like, you just get out there and act. And I think, there's something about what you just said that's so important. It's just take action and then the path will appear. But if you're just sitting there, I don't know, eating Cheetos or Haagen-Dazs, whatever your thing is, watching Netflix. So we've all been there, at certain points, maybe
Yeah.
that, not taking care of ourselves, then that's not really a good state,
Yeah, I think it was Jim Rhodes said, don't be a secret agent. Like, don't sit and expect someone to come knock on your door and say, okay, we're ready to hand you all of this. Here's the magic, whatever. And I think that the one of the things that people worry about in that state, as you just talked about, where they sit, is they can even be kind of overwhelmed by the idea of the responsibility of manifestation. That if I'm responsible for everything I create, it can feel a little overwhelming. Again, if you don't balance it against what you're here to do. Because I don't want everything. I don't need a personal yacht. That's not for me. A private jet now, which I just got in on the other day, very nice. Maybe on my bucket list. But the reality of it is, if I really am clear on who I am and what I'm here to do and why, then what is for me, and a lot of things aren't. And I think that can kind of get us stuck when we're in the overwhelm of not acting, is to think that everything I do is going to affect something else, and if I do it wrong, somehow I won't be able to fix it. And I would say to that, A, as long as you're breathing, anything's possible. And B, as long as you start your day with the intention of being uniquely on purpose, then whatever is delivered to you is for you.
Yeah, I love that. I think that I think it was Steve Jobs that said, figure out what kind of dent you want to make in the universe, you know. And I think the challenges we have as we evolve as humanity, and especially with the balance with nature and the planet, it's so out of balance that it's not going to come from one person. All of us have to take a little piece of it, you know. And so I actually remember giving up the whole I have to save the world thing when I was like in my early 30s. I was like, that's just too much burden to bear, but like, let's just take a small piece here of something that I know I can do and see where that leads me, you know. And then let's see if we can increase that impact. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone matters. Every one of us. It's a funny thing to think that you have to matter more than you think, right? The good enough. The fallacy of am I good enough? It's like you're perfect. You're perfect enough to be you. That's the key. There's no good enough. You're already, as Kylie might remember, I said, you know, there's a 1 in 400 quadrillion chance of you being here. 1 in 400 quadrillion. There's like so many zeros after that. I think it's 14 zeros. So of course you're here to do something very specifically you. And nothing else. So you can always be assured that you are absolutely enough just as you are. The you that you really are expressing.
You know, as I was sitting here, I just had a random thought. And it's really about purpose. And it sounds like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're speaking into a little bit of a purpose that just exists rather than one that we conceptualize in our brain. And I'm thinking about J.K. Rowling. She's the highest paid writer in the world. And yet she was sitting there on a train trying to go from job to job, scribbling the beginnings of Harry Potter on a napkin, and had no money. I think she was on some kind of government welfare and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Does Harry Potter come into the world because J.K. Rowling's like, I'm going to do this thing no matter what? Or does Harry Potter come into the world because he's just meant to, and the collective is like, we need Harry Potter? What do you think?
Ooh, such a juicy question. I would say a little of both. I know it's not the answer you probably wanted. I think that there's always a piece of us connected to the collective. So there's that state. So it will always, everything that's meant to be expressed will find a way to express itself. I think that our human experience, the way that we show up as people, like the actual selves outside looking at everybody else, it is a lens through which that expression comes. So to your point, did Harry Potter save her, or did she save Harry Potter? I would say both. I would say that Harry Potter would have been written by someone else in some other frame and has already been written because there's no story that hasn't been written. So there's that. And by delivering that message through her, the person that is J.K. Rowling created the ripple that she created through that expression being delivered. So it couldn't have been the same if someone else had done it, but would the story come through? Absolutely.
I love that. You're just bringing out all the weird questions in me today, but I love that. I was like, ooh, Harry Potter, we must discuss this.
Yeah, so can you share maybe what you're passionate about now and kind of what your purpose is? What do you see your purpose in life right now, and how are you serving people and giving your own gifts in the world? Thank
you. Yeah, the core of all that I do comes back to helping people find and follow their purpose, That's it. Like ultimately, if I were to scale it all back to that, that's it. What I'm most passionate about right now, though, and what's come to me in the light of the world, is what I really feel is sovereignty of self. And it goes a little bit to what we were talking about before, in the sense of people need to understand that the best you can bring to the world is really the wholeness of who you are. And so for me, I'm looking at people that are struggling to be seen or valued for what they have, the message they want to share, like Callie was just talking about, or that there's a part of them that is feeling unnurtured and unsafe to be expressed. And to me, if we can each individually find our sovereignty of self, then we will really truly lift the entire cosmos, honestly, to a higher vibration of joy and deliberate expression of peace and love and caring. It's just a given, really, if we come back to it. And so for me right now, that's what I'm really passionate about, is looking for ways to help support that with the work that I do. And for me, it's really people that I call them the 5 levers, the 5 areas of life where if those people, leaders in those levels, could really be at that sovereignty and bring who they are to it, then we could really make some major shifts in the world. In fact, I have this little, it's so funny, I have this Post-it note right here. Can't read it, but I can read it to you. It's health, wealth, ecology, education, and housing. And it sits right here. So every day when I get online or whatever, that's like my little tentacles are out there looking for those people. Because if I can see it in them, I'm here to support and bring it out.
So those are the 5 levers, is that correct?
Those were the 5 levers as delivered by the Oracle. Actually, just a little while after I went and saw Kylie that one day, like before everything closed down, I always spend my time in my meditation looking for like what's my best use of my role.
Yeah.
And I was gifted, you need to help move these 5 levers. Be the person that supports these 5 levers being shifted.
Okay.
And I'm like, no small feat, but sure, I'm here for the job.
That's
I
super
accept
helpful.
the assignment.
Do you find, because we talked about healers before the interview and working with different transformational leaders and things like that, and then you also mentioned real estate on this call. Do you find particular industries or niches are more open to your teachings than others?
You know, I think that I tend to work with women. I would say women are more open to what I have to offer. It's kind of where I've left the trend to come work with more women. That being said, I've worked with people in lots of different industries. I think the only probably place I would say that is less likely is the tech industry. But I've worked with people in the medical field. I work with doctors. I've worked with a lawyer. I've worked with people in DEI and justice work. I've worked with healers. It's kind of a soft spot in my heart. And yeah, somehow recently I've gotten a big swing of the real estate. And I think that ties back to the housing piece, that for me, it's about supporting people and creating opportunities for people to get into housing and to make a change in how housing is developed and shared in the world.
It's amazing.
Yeah, maybe one last question. I'm kind of curious, the world is going through, it's kind of like, I think in the past maybe 10 years, you could almost you could create an offer or put something in the market and you could almost be a little bit disconnected from what was happening in the world, There was like a disconnection from that, which is kind of super strange. But since COVID and now as we're coming out of that and now we have these kind of global trauma events occurring, I'm kind of curious what your advice would be to somebody to kind of go forward fearlessly or with fear, whatever, and to navigate these times. And I know that's kind of cliche, everybody says that, but how do you help people to find that center and also feel like what they're going to do can actually make a difference and they can go forward and not get overwhelmed? Because I think we see this a lot with people. And is it a matter of perception or is it a matter of having a bigger mission? Or I'm kind of curious what your thoughts here.
There's a couple of places, of course, you're right. We can't ignore, like, the world that we live in is part of our world. We're part of that world. I think that the people that do kind of go out and market with somewhat blinders on, they're doing themselves a disservice, because you can't, again, be a whole person in your business and not be clear about where you stand with things that are going on in the world. I think it's okay if what you believe or how you show up is different than your neighbor, or maybe even different than your old crew. If you're around a certain circle and you decide as you look at things that this is not the way you want to go. So I think that part of the marketing aspect of that for me, and there is a little bit of a marketing background in my corporate days, is to understand that you're still talking to people. Whatever your marketing is, ultimately you're talking to your people. And what are they going through? Because if they're yours, chances are what you're experiencing is similar to what they're experiencing. Your thoughts, your ideas, your passion about how things might be better. And if you can create in that vein an opportunity for them to make their own difference, then I think you have a chance to stand out in a sea of people just putting blinders on and moving ahead as if nothing else is going on. I might be different in thinking that. I will also say that right now, directly with my clients, we talk about this significantly. And when we bring them back, ultimately to what our path is and what our purpose is, my question will always be to them, are you listening? Because if you believe that we are connected and that this expression of change that's going on, and it will always happen, we're never going to stop changing, we're never going to stop growing. What we have to understand is we have to grow ourselves first. So we're being called to grow and stretch to make the difference we want to make with the work that we're doing. And if you're not doing that, then everything else is just noise. And your marketing will sound like noise, or it will sound disingenuous. And really, again, the universe is waiting for you to express yourself. So trust that and be honest. And be clear in your marketing that you do have something to offer in the world that is changing in front of us, because nobody's blind to that anymore.
I think that's beautiful. And if all of us can do more of that and connect with each other and see that we're dealing not with just a human, but a soul, and the life forms on Earth. I know ecology is one of your things as well, to see that everything has this energy and the spirit within, then I think it's a huge world shift that we still need to make, actually. So we have our work cut out in front of us.
Definitely. We're birthing a new place to be. And it's happening all around us, right? We're in the throes of what I was just explaining to my group the other day. We're cresting. And only women that probably had a baby know what that means, but I'm telling you, we're in the crest right now. And we might think that we can't take it and we can't go on one more minute or day or hour, but we're birthing something beautiful next. But we're in the crest, and they're in the long stretch. So hold each other's hands. Promise you we're getting through it, but it's definitely all the pressure is on.
That's wonderful. I sometimes I don't say cresting because I'm a dude. Sometimes I say we're in the eye of the hurricane. So I'm like, so you still have to get out of the eye of the hurricane, like safely. So just because it's calm now or kind of in this intermediate zone, you still have to navigate your way out of there somehow. So, well, it's been, Lia, it's been really wonderful. I feel like we have such an amazing bond, and you're like a soul part of our soul group here, doing good things in the world. If people want to work with you, they want to contact the Oracle, can you maybe share a little bit about your site and maybe a program that you offer or how they can work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's simple. oracleonpurpose.com is the website. We are actually getting excited to go right now off to a trip to Scotland for a retreat. But you can always reach out to me on my website. We have online programs to offer you and support. But if you go to the website, you'll be able to just connect with me. You can always reach out just to find out if working with me makes sense. And if you too could have an oracle on your shoulder to help you guide through the hurricane.
Thanks for being on our podcast, the Conscious Marketer podcast. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify. You can also get the episode notes at consciousmarketer.com/podcast, and show notes and links to Lia's site, oracleonpurpose.com. We really appreciate you and all the work you're doing, and so inspiring. Thank you, Lia.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Kylie, for having me. I appreciate you both.
Thank you so much.